picked one. Some people don't lose because they're not strong, they lose because they messed with the wrong bloodline. They didn't just make an enemy when they decided to go against you, they signed a contract, but they don't know what will happen next, and this is the part that should make them feel bad. You never had to fight back for the universe to listen. The moment they aimed at you, something old stood up behind you and said, "Enough." That's what they keep getting wrong. They believe they're going after someone. They don't know they're starting a family line. You didn't just happen to come here, chosen one. Before you felt the pull, before you felt the change, and before you wondered why the timing feels different, this moment was set. You are now in a Kairos hour, a time that heaven marks, when what has been watching over you comes forward. The Bible talks about times and seasons set by God and moments when protection rises early, and this is one of those times, chosen one. What is happening around you is not a coincidence, and it is not a figment of your imagination. A supernatural rearrangement is already happening, and it doesn't need your help to start. You are not being kept safe because you are not dangerous. You are being watched over because you have a lot of weight, memory, and work to do. This is the kind of protection that goes ahead of you, the kind that is passed down through families and confirmed over time. Anointed One, as this word settles, remember that God doesn't always send reminders through explanations or noise. Sometimes faith is kept alive by something calm and steady that you can go back to when you need it and when things aren't clear, and that soft presence is still close by, chosen one. There are doors in the spirit that won't open for noise, work, or a title. They open for family, and right now, Anointed One, a door that is connected to your bloodline is moving, opening, and letting go. What is being released has been sleeping for generations. What moves behind you is real. It is the rise of inheritance. It is authority that remembers what it was supposed to do. It is a male ancestor coming forward in the unseen and protecting you with a seriousness that modern language can't explain. This presence doesn't argue. It doesn't talk things over. It knows when there is a threat long before you can see it, and it reacts with the accuracy that comes from a time when survival depended on instinct, discipline, and spiritual sharpness. People often think that protection comes in loud ways. They picture angels with trumpets, storms breaking open, and miracles happening with a bang, but heaven doesn't often move through noise. Order is what makes heaven move. Heaven moves at the right time. Heaven moves through the kind of power that doesn't need to be explained. And the protection you have is just as strong. There is a reason you have been able to get out of situations that should have swallowed you whole. Danger has disappeared inches from you for a reason. You have felt changes in a room before words were spoken, motives were revealed, or decisions were made. What you feel is intelligence that comes from your generation. Awareness has been passed down, sharpened, and refined, and it is now awake inside you. I know how this feels. There were times in my life when I felt unsafe even though I had no proof. People smiled, but I felt tense. The chances looked good, but something inside me said, "Not yet." I couldn't tell anyone why. At the time, I didn't have the words for it, but later, when the truth came out, I understood why I had been sent in a different direction. That wasn't fear, that wasn't worry, that was the same kind of intelligence that is now growing in you. It is the instinct of those who lived through storms so you wouldn't drown in them. It is the legacy of men who wouldn't give up even when life took everything from them except their awareness. This is why your life has never been random, Anointed One. This is why coincidences have been following you around like shadows that have a purpose. Every time you felt like you were being pulled away, every time someone left without warning, every time something went wrong that saved you, and every time a door closed that made you angry until you realized it was mercy. These were not mistakes, these were actions, these were changes, these were actions taken before harm had fully formed. The Bible talks about times and seasons that God has set aside for certain things. You are now in one of these times. This is Kairos, a time when heaven doesn't just watch but also takes part. And listen closely, the protection on your life is not passive. It doesn't wait for trouble to get worse. It reacts quickly. It sees things early. It stops early. That's why your enemies don't get it right. They think that harm starts with action. But in your life, harm is stopped at intention. When someone decides to plot, something breaks in the unseen world. They lose their focus. Their timing goes wrong. They lose their confidence. They start to hurt themselves without knowing why. They are not going to war with you. They are hitting your cover. Your calmness makes them confused because they can't see what's behind you. They believe you're quiet because you don't know. They think you're patient because you're weak. They think you're kind because you're not ready. But the truth is much simpler. You have never been in a room by yourself, not even once. You have a strong presence when you walk. You walk with the past. You walk with spiritual permissions that were given to you long before you got here. Your silence means something for a reason. Your stillness stops manipulation for a reason. When someone with bad intentions gets too close to you, you feel tense for a reason. Before you even move, something in the air pushes back. And I want you to see this pattern. The protection gets stronger every time your life is about to get better. The air feels heavy before breakthroughs. Some people leave before the rise. Before you can see clearly, the noise in your environment is taken away. This isn't resistance. This is getting ready. This is heaven getting everything ready for you because you are entering a place where your power grows, your understanding deepens, and your purpose becomes clear. Chosen one, if you've ever left a room and then found out that chaos broke out just after you left, if you've ever had a sudden urge to pull away from someone who seemed fine, only to find out later that their motives were bad, you are not imagining it. If you have ever felt like you were in danger without any proof and followed that feeling, you are not crazy. You are not thinking too much. Something older, wiser, and very dedicated to keeping you safe is looking out for you. Anointed one, the strongest descendants don't often take the easiest paths. You were made on purpose. You are aware because you have been trained well. You never saw it, but you got it without knowing it. Your strength comes from the battles your ancestors fought so you wouldn't have to. Your gut feeling comes from men who wouldn't go away even when the world tried to get rid of them. This is why heaviness has been with you. It was pressure that looked like draining. This is why people who aren't ready get nervous when you're around. It sends a signal that they can't understand. And at this very moment, as this word reaches you, something in your spirit is being confirmed. You are entering a time when your protection will be clear, not because the danger is getting worse, but because your destiny is getting closer. When heaven pushes you forward, it also protects the way. Please hold this gently before we move on. God's most important reminders often come in the form of something quiet and steady, something to go back to when faith is low. And if you need that steadiness, it's down there waiting for you. You are stepping into activation, chosen one. Heaven isn't just watching out for you. Heaven is clearing it, making it bigger, and getting it ready for a level of authority that has been waiting for you to grow into it. The bloodline you come from is not silent. O Anointed One, it is not inactive. It has a spiritual mission that didn't start with you, but is choosing to show itself through you in this generation. Your spirit has been restless for a reason your judgment has gotten better, a reason why the old ways of moving, thinking, and getting around don't work anymore. Something old is coming together with something new, and heaven is making something new out of the two. When heaven chooses someone to have generational authority, the preparation usually doesn't look divine. It looks like stress, it looks like it's heavy, it looks like people don't get it. It seems like people are pulling away from each other for reasons they can't explain. It looks like isolation that feels unfair until wisdom reveals its purpose. Heaven takes away what can't go with you before it shows you where you're going. I remember a season in my own life when everything felt misaligned, opportunities dried up, people shifted, conversations grew shallow, every room felt too small, every environment felt too crowded. I didn't realize then that what I was experiencing wasn't collapse, it was consecration. Heaven was editing my surroundings, trimming what was unnecessary, narrowing my focus, and preparing the weight of my spirit for what it was called to carry. I didn't understand it then, but looking back, that season saved me from stepping into my future prematurely. What felt like delay was actually divine pacing. What felt like silence was strategic positioning. And now, Chosen One, that same pattern is unfolding around you. Anointed One, hear this clearly. Your life has been marked by timing, not clock timing, not calendar timing, divine timing, Kairos timing, the kind heaven recognizes early. The kind of timing that heaven recognizes even before you do, and when heaven shifts your season, everything connected to you begins to rearrange itself. People who once seemed central drift to the edges. Environments that once felt comfortable begin to feel foreign. Conversations that once energized you now feel hollow. This is not burnout. This is not confusion. This is spiritual recalibration. There is a reason your spirit feels alert even when your mind cannot explain why. A reason your dreams have intensified. A reason your intuition has become louder, faster, sharper. A reason your internal alarms go off quicker than before. Your male ancestor, the one assigned to your bloodline, the one who watches, discerns, and intervenes, is not waking up, he is rising. And when he rises, your awareness rises with him. Chosen One, there are moments in life when heaven prepares the earth to receive your next level. You may not see the preparation with your natural eyes, but your spirit feels it. The ground beneath you becomes unsettled, the atmosphere around you thickens, conversations feel heavier, encounters feel more intentional, even silence feels charged. This is because the spiritual realm is moving before the physical realm catches up, and this is exactly what terrifies your enemies. They think strategy begins with action. They think harm begins with a plan. They do not understand that heaven responds at intention. Before a word is spoken, before a gesture is made, before a plot is formed into action, your covering has already detected the shift. This is why people fall apart before they can finish their assignment against you, why their behavior shifts into confusion, why their timing collapses, why their confidence evaporates. They are not confronting you, they are confronting a barrier they cannot see. Anointed One, when people test you, they expect reaction, they expect fear, they expect defensiveness, but what they encounter instead is true stillness. They encounter the stillness of someone who has been shielded since birth. Someone who has never had to rely solely on human protection, someone who has lived long enough to witness patterns that repeat, align, and confirm what the spirit already knows. What they collide with is not passivity, it is inherited strength, and this inherited strength is not gentle, it is precise, it is disciplined, it is the kind of protection that does not raise its voice because it does not need to, it moves quietly, efficiently, and on time. There have been situations in your life that collapsed without your involvement, not because you ignored them, but because heaven resolved them before they could touch you. People left your life not because you pushed them away, but because your covering removed them before their intentions ripened. Opportunities you once wanted vanished because heaven knew what you could not see. Chosen one, you are entering a season where this protection will promote you. Heaven does not guard what it does not plan to grow, and when divine protection intensifies, divine expansion follows. You are moving into a realm of visibility, authority, and influence that requires a stronger perimeter. Heaven is not simply protecting you from danger, heaven is positioning you for destiny. There will be moments in the coming season when doors open without effort, conversations shift in your favor, resources appear, and opportunities align as if orchestrated from above. This is because they are. Favor is not random, promotion is not accidental, supernatural transfer is not luck. These are signs that heaven has decided the time is ripe, the soil is ready, and the fruit of your endurance must now manifest. Before we move forward, hold this truth gently. God often prepares the heart with whispers long before he reveals the fullness of his plan, and when your strength feels thin, those whispers remain quiet, steady, waiting for you to simply return to them. Chosen one, there is a shift unfolding around you that cannot be mistaken for coincidence. The atmosphere of your life has been tightening with purpose, and the weight you feel is not burden, it is confirmation. Heaven is arranging a supernatural transfer, a movement of favor, clarity, and authority meant for those who have endured long seasons of pressure without collapsing. Anointed one, you have been molded in silence, refined in hidden places, and shaped by challenges that were never meant to break you, but to prepare you, and now that preparation is beginning to speak. Anointed one, hear this with spiritual ears. When heaven begins to elevate someone, the first sign is not celebration, it is disruption. Patterns shift, relationships expose themselves, environments grow uncomfortable, old cycles refuse to hold you, and your spirit begins to stretch beyond the size of your circumstances. You have felt this stretching, it has come as restlessness, as a subtle ache, as clarity. It has come as clarity that rises uninvited at inconvenient hours. This is not anxiety, this is calling, this is the awareness of someone who has outgrown the season they were once required to survive. There were years when you thought survival was your only assignment, when you believed the weight you carried was a sign of misfortune rather than divine selection. But now, as understanding matures inside you, you realize that heaven uses weight to shape warriors, not victims. Heaven uses resistance to honor those chosen to carry generational purpose. Your lineage carries stories of men who stood firm against adversity, who refused to bow to chaos, who learned to read danger without being taught, and that same instinct is waking up in you with a strength that others can feel even before you speak. I have felt this kind of awakening myself. There was a season when everything familiar became too small. I couldn't explain it, but I knew something in my spirit was shifting powerfully. Conversations I once enjoyed no longer fed me. Plans I once relied on suddenly felt fragile. The more I tried to remain who I used to be, the more life refused to let me. I thought I was losing stability, but in truth, I was gaining alignment. What I was experiencing was not collapse, it was calling, and the moment I surrendered to that calling, doors began to open in ways effort alone could never have achieved. Anointed One, this is the same transition now moving through you. You have entered a season where heaven is calling your inheritance to the surface. The protection around your life is no longer just a shield, it is becoming a signal, a divine announcement that your name is entering rooms you have not yet walked into, that opportunities are being stirred awake, that a supernatural transfer is being released, not because life has suddenly become easier, but because your spirit has become ready. Chosen One, heaven promotes based on readiness, not upon demand. And you have been prepared through battles no one saw, perseverance few understood and resilience many underestimated. You learned to remain calm in storms that would have broken others. You learned to stand still while people around you panicked. You learned to carry yourself with dignity even when surrounded by chaos. All of that was training. All of that was evidence you were being shaped to hold more than ordinary people can carry. Your enemies misread your restraint as weakness because they did not understand the lineage behind your silence. They thought you lacked force. They did not realize you were backed by generations of strength. They thought you lacked defense. They did not recognize the presence that rises behind you. They believed they were confronting an individual. They did not understand they were provoking a bloodline. Anointed One, the protection surrounding you is not reactive, it is proactive. It sees ahead, it responds ahead, it intercepts early. It intercepts before harm gains momentum. That is why plots fall apart before they reach you. That is why people intending harm begin to unravel. That is why confusion finds those who attempt to sabotage you. The moment their intention forms, heaven registers it. The moment they step forward, something ancient steps in their way. And now, because your season is shifting, your awareness of this protection is becoming stronger. You feel danger earlier. You sense misalignment faster. You withdraw from certain people without knowing why. You recognize spiritual signals before facts confirm them. This is not paranoia. This is inheritance. This is the activation of instincts you did not learn but absorbed from those who survived so you could rise. Anointed One, heaven is not just protecting you from harm. It is preparing you for stewardship, for influence, for increase. When heaven chooses a person to carry generational blessing, heaven intensifies protection around them. This happens because the magnitude of their calling attracts both favor and scrutiny. This is why certain burdens you carried were heavier than expected. This is why certain connections fell away abruptly. This is why you have been navigating a season that feels spiritually charged. Heaven is positioning you for a level of authority few ever reach. And here is what you must understand. Supernatural elevation requires supernatural discernment. Heaven will not place you on higher ground without equipping you to see further, hear clearer, and respond wiser. This is why your clarity has increased. This is why your emotional tolerance has decreased. This is why false intentions reveal themselves more quickly. Now it is not that you are becoming sensitive. It is that you are becoming spiritually precise. Chosen One, everything around you is shifting to match what heaven is building within you. Protection is tightening because purpose is expanding. The path is narrowing for you. The path is narrowing because destiny is approaching, and what awaits you in the next season requires a version of you that understands identity, timing, and inheritance on a deeper level. Before we step into the next part, hold this softly. God often strengthens you with quiet things. Subtle reminders that remain steady when your emotions are not, and whenever you need that stillness, it will be waiting for you just below. Chosen one, there comes a point in every spiritual ascent where the battle is no longer external but internal, where the promise is inside yet the path feels stretched thin beneath your feet, not because heaven has delayed you, but because endurance itself becomes the final proving ground. Anointed one, you have felt this, that quiet heaviness, that unspoken fatigue, that sense that what is being formed in your life is bigger than the pace your heart sometimes feels ready for, and yet, even in that weight, something in you refuses to collapse. Something in you keeps standing. This is the mark of someone chosen not just to receive but to carry. Anyone can hold a blessing, only those shaped by pressure can hold responsibility. Heaven trusts you with both, and trust does not remove waiting, it sanctifies it. It turns the in-between season into a sacred chamber where your spirit strengthens in ways no one else can see. There were days you questioned your own capacity, days when even simple tasks felt layered with invisible resistance, days when you wondered why the promise felt near, but the progress felt slow. But what you didn't realize is that heaven was tightening the alignment, refining timing, and preparing your steps so that when the breakthrough arrives, it does not slip through your hands. Anointed one, slowness is not denial, delay is not neglect. What feels paused is often being perfected, and this is where endurance becomes holy, not the kind that demands more effort, but the kind that rests in awareness. It is the kind that trusts the unseen even when the seen feels insufficient. You have lived long enough to know that rushing never built anything meant to last. You have learned that strength isn't always loud, it is often patient. It is the decision to rise again on mornings where you expected yourself to fall. It is the courage to remain open even when disappointment taught you to close. Chosen one, heaven notices every one of those moments, the ones no one applauded, the ones you didn't speak about, the ones you pressed through even when the reward wasn't visible. That quiet faith is what activates divine alignment. That steady heart is what pulls breakthrough into season. And now the season is shifting, not because you forced it, but because you remained available for it. There will always be people who misunderstand the weight you carry. They see your composure and assume ease. They see your calm and assume immunity. They do not understand the battle you wage in silence. They do not understand the battle you wage in silence nor the discipline required to wait without bitterness. But heaven sees it, heaven honors it, heaven moves through people who refuse to let waiting turn to resentment. Your endurance has not gone unnoticed, your resilience has not gone unmeasured. Anointed one, there is a sacred truth rarely spoken. Not every miracle arrives with noise. Some arrive gently, like clarity settling into your bones. Some arrive slowly, like strength returning after a long night. Some arrive through a single word that meets you at the exact moment you need it. Many believers know this. They return to Scripture in quiet hours, not for scholarship, but because one verse whispered at the right time steadies the entire day. A reminder like that has been placed softly below, waiting whenever your spirit needs to return to stillness. And even now, heaven continues its work in you. Each day you wake up with a little more discernment. Each night you rest with a little more wisdom. This is how transformation truly happens, not through sudden explosions of change, but through the accumulation of God's steady touches. You do not see the shift at first, but you feel it. You don't always recognize the growth, but others do. What used to unsettle you no longer carries weight. What used to drain you no longer finds access. This is the fruit of endurance, This is the evidence that heaven has been building you from the inside out. Chosen one, understand this deeply. When God prepares someone for elevation, He strengthens their foundation before He widens their platform. That is why the internal work has felt heavier than the external progress. Heaven builds in silence before it reveals in light. Heaven fortifies identity before it amplifies influence. And you have been fortified, you have been deepened, you have been made steady enough to receive what once would have overwhelmed you. Do not despise the slow days. Do not despise the days that feel slow. Do not mourn the moments that feel still. Stillness is where your lineage speaks loudest. It is where ancestral protection draws closest. It is where heaven whispers direction too subtle for a frantic heart to hear. Anointed one, you are not behind, you are not late, you are perfectly placed for what God is aligning next. And though the waiting has stretched you, it has not emptied you. Though the journey has challenged you, it has not disqualified you. Every step you took in faith has been recorded, every silent battle has been honored. Every tear has been accounted for. You are not in a holding pattern, you are in a holy pattern, one designed to make sure that when your breakthrough arrives, it finds you ready, steady, and spiritually anchored enough to sustain it. Chosen one, the shift is already underway, and heaven is not finished speaking. Chosen one, there is a point in every divine ascent where the weight stops being a burden. It stops being a burden and becomes a signal that heaven has begun rearranging the terrain beneath your feet. You may not see the movement yet, but you can feel it. Something in your spirit has been stirring, a quiet certainty, an inner tightening, a sense that you are being lifted out of what no longer fits and drawn toward what has been waiting for you. Anointed one, this is not imagination. This is alignment catching up to your obedience. You have walked through seasons where everything felt stripped away, where familiar patterns broke open, where nothing responded the way it used to. It wasn't because you failed, it was because heaven refused to let you settle beneath your calling. When God enlarges a mantle, He often begins by making your old environment too small to contain you. That constriction you felt wasn't punishment, it was prophecy in motion. But this next part is something only those who carry true spiritual weight will understand fully. When breakthrough approaches, resistance doesn't always roar. Sometimes it goes silent. Sometimes the obstacles that once opposed you simply fall still, not because the battle is over, but because heaven has stepped into the field. You begin to realize that the quiet around you is not emptiness, it is rearrangement, a holy pause, a spiritual reset, a clearing of the lanes so that what's meant to reach you can come without interference. And this is exactly where you are. The atmosphere around your life has shifted, conversations feel different, opportunities feel closer, even your own thoughts have softened into clarity. What once confused you now reveals itself plainly. Anointed one, the veil is lifting, you are being positioned with deliberate precision, but positioning always requires one thing: internal expansion. Heaven cannot pour into a vessel that refuses to stretch, and you, chosen one, have stretched in ways no one saw. You stretched through great disappointment. You stretched through disappointment, you stretched through betrayal, you stretched through the moments where fear tried to convince you to shrink. Every stretch enlarged your spiritual capacity, every surrender increased your spiritual authority. This is why heaven trusts you with breakthrough, not because you are loud, but because you are loyal, not because you are flawless, but because you are faithful. There is a maturity in you now, a steadiness, a practiced patience, a refined discernment that could only have been forged through the trials you survived. These qualities are the currency of elevation, and even now, the divine timing of your life mirrors the pattern seen throughout Scripture. When God prepares someone for supernatural advancement, there is always a season where the external world goes strangely quiet while the internal world grows intensely active. It happened to Elijah by the brook, it happened to Moses in the wilderness, it happened to David in hidden fields. And it is happening to you, not to delay you, but to reveal you at the appointed moment. Chosen one, what you are stepping into is not small, it is not temporary, it is not fragile, it carries generational weight, it carries ancestral agreement, it carries heaven's endorsement. This is why the warfare increased, this is why certain doors closed abruptly, this is why certain relationships dissolved without warning. Heaven was clearing the room for what comes next. But hear this with clarity, the same God who called you out will call forth what belongs to you. And when he does, no opposition can withhold it, no human can delay it, no circumstance can dilute it. What is ordained for you has already begun moving. You may still feel moments of fatigue, you may have days where your spirit feels stretched thin. This is normal for someone carrying a mantle that exceeds their past. Transformation rarely arrives in comfort, it arrives in surrender, it arrives in true trust. It arrives in trust, it arrives in the quiet conviction that even when you cannot see the next step, you can sense the one guiding it. And anointed one, here is something heaven taught long before you ever faced these trials. The greatest breakthroughs are often preceded by subtle shifts in your own heart, a release, a letting go, a final exhale after a long season of holding everything together. When you reach that moment, heaven steps in, not as a reward, but as fulfillment. You are closer to that fulfillment than you realize. The resistance you once felt is weakening, the spiritual heaviness that hovered around you is dissolving, your discernment is sharper, your peace is deeper, your authority is more defined. These are not random improvements, they are signs that heaven has begun the transfer of strength, of clarity, of positioning, of provision. And yes, even now something in you knows this is real. Something in you feels the shift like a change in the wind's direction. Something in you recognizes that you are being guided, not guessing. You are being aligned, not wandering. You are being lifted, not lost. Chosen one, you are stepping into a chapter where heaven responds faster, where doors open cleaner, where clarity arrives sooner, and where the weight you carry transforms into the authority you walk in, and heaven has only begun. Chosen one, there are seasons when heaven does not accelerate your steps, but strengthens your footing. This is one of those seasons, not because you are standing still, but because what is rising beneath you requires a different foundation than anything you have walked on before. Anointed one, you have begun to notice this, your spirit has been pulling away from noise faster than usual, your patience for empty conversations has shortened and your discernment has sharpened in ways you didn't consciously train for. This is not withdrawal, this is refinement. Heaven is tuning you to a special frequency. Heaven is tuning you to a frequency that only destiny can hear. You may have felt recently that your inner world has changed pace, you move slower in some areas, faster in others, you speak less but feel more, you choose silence over explanation, alignment over approval, distance over drama. These shifts are not personality changes, they are spiritual upgrades. When heaven elevates someone, he does not begin by changing their environment, he begins by upgrading their sensitivity, and your sensitivity, anointed one, has become an instrument heaven uses to guide you between what is permissible and what is purposeful. There are rooms you no longer feel comfortable in because your spirit recognizes they cannot carry what is coming to you. There are people you no longer feel drawn to because their presence dilutes your awareness. There are opportunities you quietly turned away from because something in you whispered, "Not this, not now." You didn't fully understand it then. You didn't fully understand why, but you obeyed the pull anyway. That obedience is not small, it is a sign that heaven has taken hold of your steps, even the subtle ones, and this is where many chosen ones misunderstand their own journey. They confuse spiritual fatigue with spiritual transition. They assume the heaviness they feel is a sign of failure or discouragement, when in reality, it is the weight of the next level pressing through. Heaven never promotes lightly. Before a mantle is placed on your life, its weight introduces itself first, not to break you, but to stretch your capacity, so that when the blessing arrives, your spirit can hold it without trembling. Anointed one, think about how many times in your life clarity came at the exact moment you were willing to release control. Think about the doors that opened only after you stopped trying to force outcomes. Think about the peace that arrived the moment you stopped demanding understanding. These patterns aren't coincidences. These patterns are not coincidence, they are training. Heaven is teaching you to navigate not by sight but by calibration, and calibration is happening right now. You have noticed that you sense misalignment quicker than before. You recognize insincerity without evidence. You feel shifts in atmosphere within seconds. You read intentions without words. This is not paranoia, it is spiritual maturity. People who rely on surface signals cannot understand the kind of perception you walk with. You are not reading faces, you are reading spiritual currents. And spiritual currents never lie. There is a reason some individuals become uneasy in your presence. Your spirit exposes what their words try to hide. There is a reason certain environments feel heavy the moment you step into them. Your presence disrupts patterns that depend on spiritual blindness. Your discernment is not passive, it is active. It rearranges the unseen the way gravity rearranges space, and you are becoming more aligned. And the more aligned you become, the more undeniable your atmosphere grows. Chosen one, do not overlook this. Your atmosphere is changing before your circumstances do. Heaven always shifts the internal climate before shifting the external reality. This is why conversations around you feel different, why people speak more carefully, why certain individuals who once felt bold in your presence now hesitate. It is not because you changed your tone, it is because your spirit carries a clarity that demands truth. And yet, even with all this growth, Heaven knows fatigue still visits you. There are moments where your heart feels tired, your mind feels stretched, and your faith feels quiet. Do not mistake quiet faith for weak faith. Quiet faith is often the strongest kind. It is faith that breathes more than it speaks. It is faith that listens more than it shouts. It is faith that stays present even when emotion disappears. In those moments, you may find yourself reaching out for more,